Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Nuite Nelson Ikechukwu, and today I want us to look at a very popular word, social movement called feminism. Now I'm not looking at feminism for any other reason. I want to look at the fact that the way this movement is carried on, or the way women are carrying or taking this social movement, is forgetting a very important factor, and that is the fact that men can actually play a very key and vital role in this movement. So today we'll be discussing men's role in feminism. Of course, women are apt to blame men for most of the things they go through in the world. Of course, men are the problem, but let's not forget the fact that it is not just men. What this struggle should be about is fight, the fight towards to change the structure of society, not necessarily an avenue to hit men, but a fight towards what? Liberation of women, changing of what? The structure of society, because it is this structure that needs to change. Okay? Men are not the enemy. That is what I want to see. But before we go deep into this, we need to look at a little bit of what history. History is very, very what? Important. Yes, it is important we look at history. In the olden days or before this particular era, this millennium, the kind of occupation that existed in the world was such that required physical strength. And men had this. And this left women with what? Playing subordinate role of what? Being under men because they did not have the physical strength for war, the strength for what? Very hard occupation. But things have changed over the years. And the kind of occupation we have right now require more of mental capacity than physical strength. And women can cope just fine. Okay, although there have been a lot of recorded progress in the world as regard this issue. A lot of recorded progress in the world as regard this issue. Sorry, I was distracted a little bit. So history, things we should begin to look at how this structure can change so that women can achieve equality movement. After all, this struggle will be good for humanity. And I don't think any reasonable man should oppose it. But sometimes men are against this movement, not for any reason, but out of spite. Okay, they want to spite women because of the way they carry on with this movement, the way they see men as enemy and feel that men are the problem. But there is no way things can change without men. Men hold all the cards, and they need to begin to want to be favorably disposed to this struggle. Okay. Now, feminism should not be about hate for men. Because for there to be any meaningful change, men need to get involved. Okay. Now, I want to use the slavery, the experience of slavery and colonization to afford us certain level of analogy so that we begin to understand how these things can work. Now, at a certain point, the white race enslaved everyone who was not white. But don't let me go into the aspect of slavery and all that. Let me just look at how it played out between the white and the blacks. The whites enslaved the black and sold them and took them away from their native land of Africa, for instance, to work in their plantations in America, in the Philippines, in different places where you find black people today. Now, this slavery did not just change simply because the Africans or those who are being enslaved decided that it must change. No. It changed because some of these people who enslaved people grew conscience and stood against the movement. And that was how slavery came to an end. So, what am I trying to say? The white people held the power at this time. Things did not change because the black people wanted slavery to end. Things only changed because certain white people stood against the movement. And that was why the slavery died and was replaced with colonization. Now, colonization also had its merit at the time for them, and after a while, it lost its shine and shame and all of that. And then certain part of the same colonizers also stood against it. Of course, we have agitation from the colonized, but then for things to change meaningfully, part of these colonizers have to stand against colonization. That is how these things begin to work. And you see people going on the street protesting against it that all of these foreign occupied places must be liberated. Do you think the colonial master did not have power to continue to colonize? Of course, they have the means and the wherewithal to continue to colonize the people, even till now, this present time, if they wanted to. But the, it's more effective if the pressure is coming from within them than for it to be coming from those. Of course, the hunted animal cannot tell the hunter when to stop the hunt. It is part of this one that can decide, this hunter can say, these animals are facing extinction. It is time we make some laws to regulate how we hunt, or we should stop this hunting altogether. That is how things change. And feminism need to begin to see this, okay, as something very, very important for the sake of what? The movement. Equality is something that is good for humanity. Men and women should be partners in this world. That way, imagine the level of progress we've recorded by men holding all the cards. Imagine what will happen if everybody, including women, have the power to do whatever they want to do. They have unlimited power. Humanity will be the biggest beneficiary of this. Now, I want to tell a story, a very short story, two short stories to buttress this point. Now, I picked these two stories from my community. Let me just, it's one story but involving two people. But I'm going to merge the stories together to save time. Now, the name of the protagonist or the villain, or whatever I can call him in this story, is called Chibueze. Now, Chibueze is from my community. I knew him personally. Chibueze got married to a lady and always beating this lady. Every day beating this lady, this innocent lady, very sweet lady. But every day he keeps beating her. You know, sometimes the woman will cook and they will not allow her to eat what she has cooked. We send her out in the middle of the night. You know, I tried, anytime I go to the village, I try to what? To speak some sense into him. Let him understand that the world has changed beyond time where men can just do anything they want to women. There was never a time it was good. I tried to reason with him, but it never really worked out. Until one day, women come, no, before, prior to this, that very day, women have been struggling, even in their village meeting, they come up with ideas on how to stop this thing, but nothing really changed until they begin to appeal to the boys of the community. The boys took it up. What did they do? They had a secret meeting and they agreed that all those young men of beating up their wife for no reason must be brought to the book. They must seek legitimate means of what airing out their what grievances. In the village, they had what they call elders, the council of elders, who settle matters. That settle the major work is to settle issues and matters. But they boycott this thing and try to what to bring about justice themselves. So what these boys did on the day they came for Chibese, Chibese saw them coming through the main entrance to his compound and they ran towards the back. What they did not know was that the boys were also coming from there and they met him in the middle of his compound. They brought him there and they dealt with him heavily. After that day, Chibese never for once raised his hands against his wife. Things changed. The same thing with Okichukwu, the next story I'm going to tell. Okichukwu was doing the same thing and they did the same thing to him. So many other people, and things changed. Now the community have become such that in the event of any disagreement in families, they bring it typically before elders or before important people in the community, and this matter is settled amicably. Most of these issues would stop. So what am I saying? There are so many ways, solution to so many things to bring about what change in this regard. Now, the way we raise boys is very, very important. Okay? We need to begin to what? To use indoctrination at a very young age in the way we raise our children. Now, for instance, what am I driving at? Now, if for me to buttress this point, now I need to use the story of how Africa became Christians or how some part of Africa became Muslims. Now, this Islam, for instance, was done but was imposed. But the group of people whom it was imposed on kept struggling and fighting and fighting and fighting to liberate themselves from this because prior to this time they worshipped other gods. And then suddenly they can no longer do that. So they did everything. But it was a total failure on the people to which this religion was imposed, but not to their children. Because their children who never witnessed a time when their father worship any other god, saw Islam as their own primary what? Religion. And the struggle died with them. When the old people died off, there was no longer any need to what? To force people to begin to what? To embrace Islam. It happened naturally because most of these children have been indoctrinated from childhood to see this religion as the ultimate religion. The same thing with Christianity. When Christianity came to Africa, major part of Africa were already what? They worship different things. They are animists, worship spirits of different things. They worship different kind of things. But when Christianity came, what they did was what? To target the young generations. When the old papas died off, it got to a point where people who are no longer familiar with the old worship naturally embrace Christianity as the primary word, religion, and it's working. And now Africa can be seen as majorly Islamic and what? Christian country. Okay? Another thing I need to say, another thing I need to say is that parents need to teach their children how to appreciate and value women. It is very, very key in this struggle. Both men and women need to come together and find a way to teach boys how to value and appreciate women. Okay? We can teach them to defend women. So it becomes a natural instinct in them to do that. This is not something if you try to impose such an idea on somebody like me because my characters are already set. It's very difficult for somebody like me to change, but not to children. It can be molded from time, from when they were young to have certain ideals, certain value system that would support feminism, that support what equality. Teach boys that they are not superior to girls, and that way our world will be the biggest beneficiary of what this legislation. Legislation is also key. Okay, feminism also need to work with lawmakers. And who are the people in these lawmaking ventures? They are primarily men. So there is no way. So when you work with them, try to sell your idea to this legislator. They will support policies and laws that favors what? Women equality with what? With men. Okay? So what I'm saying is that there are a number of things we can do, feminists can do in turning this movement around, in helping this movement to achieve its objective instead of what turning it into a war. We're not at war. Men are not at war with women, of course. Okay, so that is that. Okay, now remember that the hunted animal can't stop the hunter from hunting them. It is from among the hunters that some people will grow conscience and begin to persuade others to stop the hunt. Now, the story of how slavery ended in America is also a very good example of how it is from these oppressors that change can happen. Now, one faction of America supported slavery, the other faction kicked against it, and there was a civil war because of this. And a part that supported the abolition of slavery won. And that was how slavery died a natural death in the world. Another story of my friend. We worked in the same place together. So there was this girl, particular girl I liked at the time. And they tried talking to the girl, but the girl refused to. He did everything possible. So until I waded into the matter, So I spoke to the girl as she agreed, and they started going out. And then suddenly the girl started complaining of abuse and all that. The guy will slap her, will abandon her in public places, and you know, oppressive. And when she told me, I looked into the matter and I realized that it was true. I tried to persuade him, he refused. So what I did was to forcefully end the relationship. I'm not going to tell you the details of what I did. Although my friend did not forgive me for a long time, but then with time we got back on track. I had to forcefully what? End the relationship. She on her part was powerless. She couldn't do anything to change her situation. She was going through this until someone who understands more of the oppressor helped out. Okay? Now, some of you might think that why is this guy talking about feminism? Is he a feminist? Of course, I'm not a feminist. I'm an egalitarianist. I believe in equality of the sexes, not just. But what differentiates me primarily from a feminist is the fact that I believe there are areas that men have advantage, more areas that men have advantage, but there are also areas that women have what? Advantage. So an egalitarianist, in egalitarianism, we try to what? To balance these areas of what? Advantages with what? Two different sexes. So you can call me an egalitarianist, a humanist, or an equalist. But I'm not a feminist. I'm not a feminist not because I don't feel the plight of feminists. Of course, feminism is part of egalitarianism. Feminism is part of egalitarianism, so it's part of what I do. It's just feminism. Feminism is just a fraction of what I am as a person. So what I want to say is that men need to get involved in this. It is not a woman's war. Hmm? It is war for the betterment of our society. Men also need to, what, to be involved for this struggle to be effective. So thank you. Now please subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification, and please share this video. Thank you. Have a nice day. I'll see you soon.